welcome to my studio this morning where I'm working on a new series of tea and art. So this time, I tried to do this first session yesterday, didn't work out. But this time I do have my tea, and it is something from David's Tea. I can't remember what it is now. Peaches, I think, from David's Tea. And so I'm looking forward to drinking that when it cools down a little bit, because it's very, very hot right now. So if you want to join me, I hope that you can grab yourself a tea, and in the description of this video I'm going to be putting down all the materials that I am using, and feel free to use something similar or the exact same, and we can paint together. Alright, so for today I'm using a old book that I don't use anymore, okay? And if you do plan to use a book, you do absolutely need gesso. Okay, so gesso, sludge. I'm using sludge, but gesso is a compound that helps for the paint to adhere, and it protects the paper. Okay, so it's very important to use when you're using pages out of a book. Now, the brand that I'm using here is TriArt, which is a very good brand. Lighting is a little bit different today. Okay, it is a very good brand, and I'm using sludge, which actually comes from the process of making gesso. Gesso usually comes in white, clear, or black, or you can mix any other paint. If you can mix some powder or paint into it, it's going to take that color. But if you're mixing it into white gesso, then it's going to come out a bit more pastel-y. In any case, sludge has a different tint to it because it's just a remnants of it, comes from the process of creating the gesso. So mine has a bit of a grayish tint to it, which is fine for this kind of project. Now, we are going to be using acrylics today, and my reference photo is actually in the thumbnail for this video. I'm going to reference it back and forth, but I do take a lot of artistic liberty with all my reference photos. I never try to copy them exactly. I don't paint photorealism or too much of a realism either. So interpretation is my go-to. All right, so if you're using a different kind of support, what can you use? You can use acrylic paper. You can buy it. You can use canvas paper. You can use canvas, just sheets of canvas. They come in pads. You can use a canvas board. All right, we're looking for or a stretch canvas as well. We're looking for around an 8x10 type of format. Okay, so let's see. In terms of paints, I will be using mostly Liquitex Basics. I'm trying to look at my reference here. Could also let me know how you find the music in the comments below. If it's too loud or not loud enough. If you can still hear me, that'll probably be the best. You can my instruction. So in my reference photo, I do have a little bit of pink and a lot of blue. The mountain with a lake type of winter scene. I'm going to ignore the blue. Today I'm feeling more of the mountains are really getting my attention, drawing my attention. So that's, I want some more colors in there too, so that this time to reflect from that as well. Now, I have here affordable for students to use. There are more extravagantly priced as well. I'll put it aside, I don't know. Right, so I would suggest though if you're a beginner and you're just doing this for some practice, wanting to learn a little something new, I would suggest you go with something a little bit cheaper, okay? But not cheaper with the quality. Okay, so I'm going to pick a brand is going to go with the basics of the brand. If you have if you have two other lines that are for artists, or rather more professional lines, which is fine. I would do not do money on things that you don't need, basically, right? Another brand that is really good is Deal. I use them when I try it out, so you can get a set. Oh, another good brand is Amsterdam. So what makes such professional and not so much is the light fastness, how pigment they are, the colors there. So this is a titanium buff. For the liquid range called Ambition. The same thing. It's a warmer white, not the white, lighter, or a warmer white. And that, but it's gentle, right? So I like that of home, which the red equipment. That's the snow. To make it a much warmer tone than what I have. Different colors. Comes to brushes, again, something mid-range in terms of price, not Dollarama style, but not too expensive. Brushes go very expensive. So, for example, this particular brush, I've had it since. I've had it for 6 years now since I started, and it's still very good quality. I've been taking good care of it, and see that it's been used right close here. It's knocked up, but it still works very, very well. I've been taking care of it. It was $4. $3 at a time now. They go for but I mean, right? So here's quality. In any case, so you'd want something with a straight edge like this. And if you find it, if you have anything like that, might go with a single brush. Teflon for acrylic, and natural brushes. We use cloth brushes for acrylic as well. They just sit there and tougher hair, and I think they need more of a texture for the pencil. I don't quite like that. I like smooth stuff. That's what I use. Now, I might just do that. Maybe that's going to be better for music. Okay, what else are we doing? Alright, everything seems to be in order. Very good. Okay. Now, in terms of a palette, I have a plastic palette here. Do you know what it is that you guys are seeing? Okay, plastic palette that I kind of just pile on and pile on and pile on. These guys are really good for then just peeling it off when the paint layer is very thin. It doesn't quite peel off so nicely. You have to scrape it off, and I don't like that. It creates a lot of dust or small particles everywhere. I like for the layers to be thicker so I can just peel it right off. And I don't mind having old paint on here and then putting my new paint and using that. Some people do mind. So work with what is more comfortable for you. You can use a glass palette as well. I've taken, the glass from picture frame, for example, whatever size I wanted, and I use that sometimes, or else I've also used wax paper. Tear out a sheet, fold it in two, and you put your paint on there. And it's for a single use and it's really good like that. Or you can use foam plates, like picnic plates. So that's also good. All right, so what else do we need? A little bit of music, maybe, like so. And so I'm just going to pull out all my colors. It's not a big painting. Don't put a lot of your paint out. Acrylic does dry and then you can't use it anymore. You have to throw it out. So be careful with how much you put on, because then you're going to throw a lot of it out. So I have a lot more of the white in here. Probably not going to be able to see too much because it's so full of other colors. So this is my white. I put quite a bit of it because I know I'm going to use a lot of it. A small, it's like when you're brushing your teeth. That kind of, if you go with just a little bit of on the tip of your finger like that, that's how much paint you're going to use. You're going to put down anyways. So I am going to use some of this ultramarine in the sky though. So I'm going to put a bit of that as well. Now my particular paint right now is getting a little bit old because I've used it. I've opened it. That's the thing with acrylics. You open them and then you have to use them up within a couple of years because otherwise they go old and you can't use them anymore. But otherwise they do very, very good. They last a long time. I haven't used these particular ones in a very long time, years, because I got the bigger paints, the bigger what do you call them now? Like these guys. They're 4 ounces. They're just bigger. The word it's not coming to me right now. Okay. It's about the size of toothpaste. A dollop of toothpaste. This is what it looks like. You can tell where my new paint is. White, the red, the ultramarine blue, the purple, the other blue. That is the thiocyanine, that is deeper. And my raw sienna. Okay, and I arranged them, so this is how I would hold on the table. This is how I'm holding my palette. So I'm arranging them top down so that I can pull them to the right. Other people like them at the top, so they pull down when they're using them, or this other way, they pull to the left. I'm right-handed and I like doing that. On this kind of palette is really good for when you're painting at the easel, because then you'd be holding it this way. Your thumb goes in here, and this actually still helps with your paint on the left, and you're pulling it this way. Or you're going to hold it this way, right? Anyways, I go on and on and on. Let's have some tea. Now, very early on, I have stopped drawing out my painting. I don't draw out the painting. I can just go in it. And if I have to, I would sketch with paint. Depends on the complexity of the picture that I'm making, I suppose. I could see times when I would want to sketch out a little bit with a pencil. In this case, I don't know, should I sketch it out, should I not? What would you guys prefer? Okay. So yeah, let me look at the painting. Okay. Well, sure. Since I am teaching this, when I talk and paint at the same time, it doesn't always turn out very well. Yeah. So it might help me to keep things organized as well. So what we see in this is that we're going to be dividing the painting into thirds. This way, that way. So I want the water to be in the lower third. The next third is going to be roughly taken up by the mountains, and there's less sky by comparison. Okay, so your thirds are going to be either very equally spaced or not so equally spaced, and that's fine. That would work just fine. So it depends on what kind of look you're going for and what is more important. The rule of thirds is very important for placing things on for composition. All right, so my mountain here goes all the way up like that, down. Got a peak here, going like that. Got something like that going on. Okay, so it's quite simple that way. You might want to. So when you do sketch things out, you use a pastel pencil, I would recommend, or a watercolor pencil, because they would dissolve with water and with the paint that you're putting on. A charcoal pencil might also work, but it's very, very dark. So as you can see, I'm using a blue pencil to kind of go with the colors that I'm using. Charcoal is going to be very black, and but do not use your regular graphite. Graphite has a sheen to it, which can end up peeking through the paint. Depends, of course, on how thick of a paint layer you're putting down. So, but I usually go with my pastel pencils. I like them the most. Plus, if something doesn't work out, I can just rub it off. It's all good. It works very well that way. All right, my tea is really, really good. I like David's tea. It's wonderful. All right, so what else can we do? Let me just double check the video again. Everything good? Awesome. Okay, so I would go with the sky, with the water, and then I would put down a first layer on these mountains. We are going to be working in layers, so prepare yourselves. So I'm wetting my, okay, I've got a jar. I need to see what you're seeing. 2 seconds. Okay, jar of water, about 3/4 of the way with water. It's big enough to be able to put your brush through. So I'm wetting it, but I'm taking off the extra water. I don't like a lot of water in my paint. So I'm going to want a little bit of the, the ultramarine. Ultramarine is very powerful of a paint color, sorry. I'm kind of getting it on one side of the brush, and on the other there's more white, which is fine with me because I'm going to be mixing the two more so together. Now, how much water should you have on your brush? I'm gonna get some more because my ultramarine is rather thick. As I said, it's running, you know, it's not so great anymore. I mostly allow the paint to mix on the canvas or whatever it is that I'm painting on, in this case paper. You don't want to have this happening where your brush is too dry. Don't be afraid of the paint. Get more paint on there. Get a little bit more water to make it flow. Don't get a ton of water. Especially when you're working on paper, it's just going to buckle. Oh, that's the other thing. If you are using paper, you should tape it down. I made that mistake when I first started. And I went back to the store 3 or 4 times that one day because I was trying to paint. And I couldn't figure out why my paper was buckling. It was pissing me off so bad that I kept going back to get different kind of paper. And then I read, of course, about, well, it's paper, it's going to buckle to some degree. Expect it, you know. So I'm getting a little bit of that red on the tip of my brush, mixing in with some white, and putting it in right here. You see, that's a very pretty pink. I can tell though that I don't have enough paint on my brush though. There we go. And I'm pulling it up through here. I don't want it to, like, I want it to be a bit more diffused. The paint is already drying up on the paper, so I have to stop and let it be. I like that. Okay. Cleaning my brush. Always clean your brush in between changing colors. Oops, I don't have enough right there. And my movements were horizontal. Dealing with the sky. Okay. Yeah, always clean your brush. This is how I managed to keep a $3 brush for 6 years. And it's still working. It's still my go-to brush. It's still in very good condition. So wash it in your beaker. I would run to the bathroom to wash my brush after every single color that I used. Now I can do it in here to a certain extent. If the water gets too dirty, I have to go to the bathroom again, that sort of thing. But you always wash it very, very well when you're under flowing water. You use your hand, your finger to do this. Okay, so that you can get all the paint out of the bristles. Okay. If not, as I said before, acrylic paint dries quite quickly, and then you're done. You're finished. Kaput. you have to throw away the brush. It doesn't work. What you could try to do is, if it's not too mucked up, is to wash it with a special soap, Castile soap, and that really gets the paint out of there too. But there's only so much you'll be able to do that. Take care of your brushes early on, and then you don't have to invest in them too much. The paint is going to be more important. The paint and your support. So I'm just going to pause a little bit, allow that to dry a bit more. We're going to do the water next. And I'm going to turn on the music again. There we are. I'm quite happy with that sky. I pause a lot in my paintings to take a break, to allow my eyes to take a break from the painting, and then come back and see what I see. I generally have little patience overall. It's why I used to work in acrylic primarily. I don't work in oils too much because I do not have the patience for oils to draw in between layers and such. But yeah, I have started working oils. It's a work in progress. It's an experience in progress. But I like acrylics because they dry quite fast. It's fast work. But even so, I would recommend that you pause in between stages. Take a walk around the room, or grab some tea and check your messages, sort of thing. Come back with different eyes. It helps to see things that you've missed when you were painting. And it only has to be like a 2-minute break, not even a few seconds, right? It's not a huge amount of time. All right. So the water. For the water, now because it's frozen, it's not going to reflect the sky so much, so we don't have to worry about that. It is going to reflect a little bit of the mountains, in that it's going to be darker here than later on this way, right? Because it's closer to the mountain. to the landmass. So there's that. However, it is twilight, and so you have a weird kind of light shining on the ice. Ice reflects some light, so it's going to be interesting. I am going to put, so where it's the lightest, I see some light patches this way. That's going to be the color in the sky. Everything else will be darker. So what I will do though is I will go with a base layer first, which is going to be a mixture of, I'm gonna water my brush again a little bit, wet my brush. We're going to do a mixture of the purple and this darker blue. So it's going to be quite dark. I might just pour a little bit of that white in here. Oh, very pretty. Okay. With acrylics, we would be working quite a bit in layers. So which means that you can go with a mid-tone type of layer first, and then you add in your darker spots and your lighter ones. So the highlights and the lowlights. It can be adjusted. Okay, I might add a little bit of white in here. Much better. Oops. Can you see this? Where are you? Yeah, okay. So I'm mixing in quite a bit of white into that purple. And I'm going, as you can tell, I'm going sideways. This is how I'm doing the, how the water goes, sideways like that. Doesn't have to be exact, just a definitely add some more light on top. But this creates a nice, you can't quite tell on the camera though. Okay, a variation. Maybe I can move the camera over. Okay, so a variation in color. It's quite dark, as I said, and that's fine because we can add more lights in the future. And I would want to add something similar to what I have in the sky up here, on the water here, and that's going to create a lot of contrast. So I would leave it at that for now. I'm going to clean my brush. So this series, the Tea and Art series, is created for just to paint together, to be part of that creative me time that you set aside for yourself, to spend a few minutes. Well, because if you're painting, you might spend an hour or over an hour. We've been through this for 41 minutes now, but I've been talking lots, so the actual painting time would be a lot less, I think. If I didn't talk, if I didn't present, would be doing this in about half an hour, I think. I'd be able to paint this. It's not big, it's quite simple and goes fast. As I said, acrylic goes fast. In any case, if you're watching this after, playing this back, feel free to fast forward and get to the parts that you want so that you can paint. Now, for the mountains, I have about the same colors in here. I'm gonna need to put some more on my palette, but I also want to bring in more of that sienna, the brown of the mountain a little bit more, just to have some fun with it. Okay, so we're doing that and we're doing this. Okay, I will pull out more of this darker blue in areas. I can get a pretty gray with this. Blue and brown makes a pretty gray. Makes a very, what can I call it? Organic gray. So let's try this dark blue with the sienna and see what I get. It might or it might not work. Generally speaking, I would use ultramarine with burnt umber, and that makes either a warmer or a cooler gray. But that's quite beautiful. So I'm getting a little bit of water on the tip of my brush. It actually makes it rather green. So if I get some of that red in here, tone it down. There we go, a little bit of that white. And I've got myself a gray of sorts. I can barely tell with my palette. Okay, so I'm gonna put this gray oh, I'm using the wrong brush for this. Oops. On this area over here, where I can tell that maybe more of the color, basically the brown, the earth of the mountain is showing through. That's going to be rather gray in the twilight. I'm just making some more of it. I'll switch my brush. I meant to use the angle brush because it's a bit smaller. and it's an angle which helps for this. And you'll notice that your gray goes towards blue more if you've got too much blue in there. You adjust it as you move along, right? It's not an exact science. It's what I like about painting is that you kind of go with the flow. The way that I use my brush here is very, very important because to the direction of the strokes. Because this mountain goes this way, the other one, I have to create a contrast between these. This is further behind, so me going this way with my brush is going to help with that. To then see it. This one is going this way again, but it's behind. It finishes up behind. Oops, that's very blue. Finishes up behind this other peak there at the back, and also there's a little bit of a flatter region right here. Okay, so your brush strokes are going to indicate what the eye sees. So I'm cleaning my brush really nice and well, putting it to the side somewhere where I'm not going to tumble it down, and getting my other angle brush. Okay, so with this one we're gonna want to go more so into, I need some more of that purple, into the darker blue to create more of that blue tone. That's going to be the shadow of the snow. So I'm not wetting my brush now because this is quite fluid. The two together and a little bit of white. Okay, and I'm going this way. I'm following the same kind of pattern. Okay, so this is what they look like. And at the moment it's very, very dark, and it's very close to this kind of dark for the lake, so I have to fix that. So as I said before, we're going to add, so this is actually dry. See, it dries very fast. We're going to add some more of the white with the ultramarine. I need more ultramarine. I might put a little bit of that red in there, just I might need some more white though. Just a smidge. Okay. Gonna need some water on this because of my paint is rather thick. It's drying on me. No, I put too much water. That's going to happen sometimes. Pull out quite a bit of that yellow, the white, and we're going in. I've got too much paint on my brush. I'm going in over, ouch, over here like so. Smidge of that pink. Okay. Pretty. Do it like that. And I'm laying it on quite thick. Alright? Because I want that contrast. But I also want to make sure that I am following, the way that the ice has built on this lake. There's water underneath. So I'm not pushing down too much. I've got way too much paint on this brush. I bloated it too much. Because I had too much water on the brush. That happens sometimes. Okay. I really like the look of that pink though on with the white. So I'm gonna put that on here a little bit. I can tell the difference. I don't know if you guys can tell the difference. Okay, so this is going to be the ice. The angle brush makes it a little bit easier to create these lines straighter than your straight brush there. So that's why I wanted to use an angle. Okay, to get all this paint off. Okay. Now what I will do is I will amplify my darks. So I'm actually going to put in a little bit of that grayish, bluish thing happening, purple. I'm gonna mix all of that in because I want to amplify my dark spots on the water. Doesn't have to be everywhere. Be selective. Those are going to be some shadows in there. And then I can add in some pure white. That was a bit too much for the highlights. Because this mountain is closer here, this is going to be darker. We have talked about that. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to have some extra little bits here and there poking right through. It's a little hard to get at the middle of the thing because of the way that the paper, it's a book. But it's all good. All right, I think that's quite pretty. Wipe this off. Okay. Now what I want for the mountains, probably some music. So let's try to get that. Audio track is unavailable. Okay. All right, so let's see. Oh, that's quite pretty. You see it on camera. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Now, I want to get some more white on here on these mountains. So, but it's not going to be pure white. So I'm going to mix in my darker blue. I've cleaned my brush, washed it, cleaned it, but I'm not dipping it back into the water. I'm just going a little bit thicker. Always when you're using the layers at the top are always going to be thicker than the layers at the bottom, if that makes sense. So part of the reason why I don't go back in to the water. So I'm maintaining the direction of my stroke that I had earlier on. I've added quite a bit of white. You have to be careful now because the white, the blue is a lot more powerful than the white. So don't add too much blue in there. Okay, like that. Wipe that off. Go in with a lot more white now. Every layer has more white in it. I'm only putting this mixture over the blue before, not touching the gray so much. Okay, I still want that streakiness to happen because these are mountains. I will be going in with pure white just for some highlights, and I will be placing those randomly even on the blue, on the gray that I put down, but for now not so much. Okay, at this point I would say let's stop and assess. Let's get some tea because we're going into the last small, what can I call them, the finishing details, right? And you don't want to rush that. So let's have a pause, listen to some music. And I'll have some tea as well, and then we're going to talk about what we have so far and if we need to make any changes. Because now will be the time to make changes, not when you finish it. right, so let's see what we got. And everything is, oops, almost dry. Okay, almost dry. All right, so let's see what works, what doesn't. I like this sort of random purple here, like that it's at the edge. I've got these lines here that I don't quite like. We'll see if I want to let them there, leave them there or not. What I'm looking for is perspective. At the moment, the only thing that tells me which of these mountains comes first is their position, not their color. So, if I look at my, yeah, that makes sense because in my reference photo here, they're all sort of as close together. They're not too far apart. They're just behind each other, but they're not too far apart. So that makes me feel better. Okay. So I don't need that kind of very distant perspective happening for this peak here, for example. They're all sort of melding together. All right. Now, the way that I am going to be placing the snow is going to be very, very important because that's going to also help with a little bit of perspective. Now, peek at the distance. I actually made this a little bit taller than in my reference image, so I'm going to be putting a lot more snow here to show that it is a bit taller. This is going to get a lot of snow, and this is going to get a little bit here. I'm gonna leave a lot of this color peeping through. I think I kind of like it, the darkness of it. All right, I like this on the ice. This color matches the sky, as I was saying. I do want some more white on here though to really pop that through. I like the dark contrast that is happening here. And I think that's it. It's going to leave as is, but these areas right here are going to get more white, and that's going to bring up that contrast as well. All right, so let's do this with the same ankle brush. Oh, that hurt. I pulled my hair. Okay, so I'm going straight into the white on the edge of the brush. I'm gonna do this without spilling something. Okay, let's try that. So, I can't tell what I'm doing. All right, so this is my white. I'm going straight in with the brush, not this way, not that way. I'm not trying to get the color up into the brush like this. I need it to stay on the tips because that's where the color is going to come off from. So, as I said, I'm going to do this later. So I'm going to add a bunch of color or white this way. Quite a bit happening over here, like so. Like that. And I feel better about using this white straight from the tube because it's such a warm white. I don't have to worry about how much it jumps off the page or not. The very, very white, so the titanium, the pure titanium, that one's would jump right off the page because it's such a cool white. All right, So that feels good, right? Feels quite good. Okay. And then some more happening on these. Now I still have all that pink and sky color peeking through. Like I don't want to cover that up. But I need some lines in here to show this is super, super bright. And I'm using the last vestiges of this white. Your most powerful contrast is going to happen right up against this dark. So that is how you choose where to put your highlights. Where is it darker? Put a little bit there. Ta-da! This is it. This is it. I want a little bit right there. Maybe. Okay. My brush, and I think that's it. And look at all that difference that white made. Right? All of a sudden it kind of comes together. Okay, so I think we still did good because we are at 1 hour and 10 minutes ish. All right. And I think we did good for this first session of a painting session together. If you do try this out by yourself, let me know how you get along or where you get into some trouble, because that's going to help me in the way that I am going to be explaining things next time. I'm doing this once a month, the tea and art sessions once a month, and I have them all pre-planned with the pictures of what's going to be happening throughout. And I have 10 sessions planned out up until the end of October this year. So if you want to follow me, you want to join me live or paint these scenes afterwards, do subscribe, like the video, and click on that bell icon to get the notification, okay, of when this is going live. Okay. And I do hope that you liked it. Leave me some comments, questions. I welcome questions. And maybe I can bring this down instead. Like so. It's one of those scenes that kind of make me want to stay in bed. Like, it's all pretty looking out the window, but don't make me go out there. It looks cold. It looks really nice, but it looks cold. So, I hope that you enjoyed this. I will see you in my next video. Check out the rest of the videos in my channel. I do have a watercolor challenge on a weekly basis that I post live videos. And yeah, I hope to see you in another video of mine. All right, thanks so much and have yourselves a good day. Bye for now.